Hey, Scrapbook friends, it's Nicole, and I'm home from my family reunion trip. Thank you for all the kind comments you made about the family reunion albums that I shared with you while I was gone. I got lots of great pictures for the next version. I do try to work chronologically, so it'll probably be a couple years before I actually catch up to those. But our next reunion is supposed to be in 3 years, so my goal is to have them done by then. One of the layouts that I did in I think it's volume 4, was this Let's Make Music, and I asked if there was interest in me doing a little demo on how to do this piano border, and I got lots of comments asking me yes to do it. So this is a quick border, and I hope that you will find that it's easy to follow and something that you can duplicate in your own albums. So for this one, what you're going to need is a piece of white cardstock and a piece of black cardstock. I always love to use these inserts from the paper packs when I'm using white cardstock in my albums, especially for something like an embellishment like this. But you can use any kind of white cardstock. You probably could even use white paper, but I just like the weight of cardstock better than paper. Then you're going to need your your border maker system with the Picket Fence cartridge. This is the cartridge that comes with the border maker system. It does not get a lot of love. I don't see it used a lot. So I'm always looking for ways to use this one because everybody who has the Creative Memories Border Maker system has this cartridge. And I hate for us to have a tool that we don't take full advantage of. So here's a great time for you to bust out your old Picket Fence cartridge. Of course, you also need your housing. You're going to need a ruler. This happens to be the Creative Memories zero centering ruler. But it doesn't have to be this ruler. If you have the 13 by 13 cutting mat, I think there are ways you could do this without one of these or both of these, but this was the easiest way that I found. You're going to need a tape runner and a pair of scissors and a black pen. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to cut. Oh, you're also going to need your 12-inch trimmer. Sorry. I put that on a separate part of my table. So we're going to punch out a 12-inch border with the Picket Fence cartridge. So if you haven't watched my Border Maker System video, if you don't already have this, you want to look for that. But basically, the Border Maker System just makes it so painless to punch a perfect border every time. And I absolutely love it. So here I go. This is a border that stays attached. So we have some that are chain that cut a piece that is separate, but this one stays attached to your paper that you cut it from. And that actually is going to make this a lot easier because we're going to be doing some trimming to get the size we need. So get rid of your little confetti. We're not going to use that. I have seen people save that and do interesting things, but not for this. Okay, the next thing we want to do is cut off this little pointy edge because we want to have a clean edge to make our piano keys. And what I found was the easiest thing was to find this little piece of the corner and match it up with the cutting line on the trimmer. All right, so actually I'm going to flip my mat because that's looking pretty rough. If you get cuts that don't cut cleanly, you do want to flip your mat to get a cleaner cut. So the line closest to the logo is where it's actually going to cut. So I'm going to put this on here and I'm going to line up this edge. It doesn't matter if you line it up with the top or the bottom. Let's see if I can lift it up so you can see without having to get my whole camera moved. There we go. All right, so this little point on the corner, I want to be just past the line so that when I cut, I don't leave a little divot where the little chevron piece goes down. So I'm moving this just past that line. So I'm not quite lining it up like that would be lining it up. I'm moving it just a hair past, but I don't want to cut into this little square. I mean, you could, that wouldn't be the end of the world. but I want to line it up, and I'm lining it up on both ends just to make sure it's straight. I am bracing it against this top edge, but I'm just going to cut this little piece off. So this actually makes a fun little edge border if you want to just have a zigzag edge on something. But for this purpose, we just want this flat edge to be our piano keys. Then I'm going to cut this at 1 3/4 inches to give me a little bit of extra space to work with. And then I'm going to cut 2 strips of this same paper just shy of the 1/2 inch line. So if you look at the trimmer here, you've got the cutting mat, and then where the grid starts back up again is the 1/2 inch line. The edge of the cutting mat is the 1/4 inch line. This line right here is kind of a 3/8 inch. That one's a little trickier. I think actually this is a 3/8. But this first line when we start back to the grid is the 1/2 inch. I don't want to quite go to 1/2 inch. I want it just a smidge skinnier than that. So I'm just making it not, that would be the 1/2 inch line. I'm just pulling it back a little tiny bit to not quite be a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to cut 2 of those. And I may not need all of this white, but that gives me a little bit of room to play with. So the hard part now is drawing these black lines to divide the piano keys, just because it's a little bit fiddly, and you want them to look straight and nice. So what I found was using the 13 by 13 cutting mat that has this 1/2 inch grid on it worked really well. So any kind of 1/2 inch grid, you could take your ruler, if you don't have this or you just have a regular ruler, you could take your regular ruler and just mark with a pencil. This is the one that has the lines. And you could just mark like a little pencil line every 1/2 inch. That's a little bit tedious. So if you have this 13 inch cutting mat, or even like this one that I have on my work surface with a 1/2 inch grid, that will work for you. But what I like to do is to line up the edge of the paper with a line on the mat. And you could even take a little piece of washi tape if you have some. I always have a little bit of washi lying around. I'm just going to go ahead and stick this down. This is optional, but I'm just going to stick a little piece of washi tape to hold my little thing and keep it from sliding. Then I'm going to take my black pen. I'm going to use the fine tip side, and I'm going to use the ruler, and I'm not going to use the lines on the ruler. I'm going to use the lines on the mat. I found that was easier for me. So when I line this up, again, I don't put it right on the line. I don't line the edge of my ruler right up with this line because I need to give a little bit of space for my pen. So I just bump it back just a hair. And you can figure this out on your own. Basically, you just want to make sure that the lines you draw are centered. So you can see I'm lining it up with the line on the cutting mat just a little bit up so that when I draw my line, it lines up exactly with the line on the mat. So if you put your ruler right on that line, there's no room for the pen to fit. So just a little bit hair past the line, and then just make sure that you've got it straight. There's probably easier ways to do some of these things, but I'm showing you how I did it. This is what works for me. I love to use this cutting mat as a helper to help keep my lines straight, whether I'm doing a journaling box or anything on a border, embellishment for my layout. So I'm just going to go all the way up here, scoot your mat, whatever. And if you mess up, You know, if your ruler scoots away from you while you're trying to do this, I will tell you it happened on the first sample that I did to show you. And then that's just going to mean you're going to need to keep going, but you'll adjust a little bit how you divide up your piano keys. It is not unsalvageable, so please don't give up, you know, because it seems like I was always almost at the end when I mess up. Okay, I am going to fast forward through me drawing all those lines because I could not think of anything to say. I couldn't talk and work at the same time, but I did want to show you where I messed up. So it's this one right here where the line, I kind of messed up on the line, but you're going to cover up the spaces to make the different key patterns. So you'll just have to, if you have one that you messed up, that's just where you'll have to use put a spacer, if that makes sense. Okay, so now we're going to take this not quite ½ strip, a little bit of tape runner. And if you look at a piano keyboard, the black keys are sets of 3 followed by a set of 2. And so you're just going to cover up some of the keys to make that pattern. So for this one, because I messed up, I started on the piece that had the blah on it. I don't know what to call that, where the mess up was. So I started on that and then I worked backwards. But for this one, I'm just going to start at the bottom and I'm going to start with the 3 keys and then I'm going to cover up this space in between the 3 keys. And I'm going to trim it. I'm going to leave a little tail. I tried cutting it just up along the edge just to be careful and I kept messing up. So I decided that it's easier for me to just put these on, leave a little excess. I mean, you can cut them right up, up nice, but I on purpose cut this wider than you're going to need so that we can trim it off and make it all beautiful at the end. So it doesn't matter that your tape is going to cover up, go over these holes. Just remember what you want to do is a 3-2-3 pattern with a space in between. So there's my 2. And because I have that extra space, it doesn't quite fit one 12-inch strip of this not quite wide paper. Oh, but look, because I didn't mess up, one piece does actually fit. So here's my 3-2-3-2-3-2. And this right here, and then this gives me the 3 on both ends. And I really like the look of that with the 3 and the 3 on both ends. So make sure your little pieces are stuck down nice and tight, and then put it back on your trimmer. And now we're going to cut it at 1.5 inches because that for me was the perspective, I guess, that I felt looked the best. Now you're cutting through a couple layers plus some adhesive, so push down hard and maybe go over it a couple of times, and then you're going to clean off all that uneven edge here and be left with this nice pretty border. Okay, see, this one's picking up a little bit, so I'm just going to give it a pop more of adhesive. All right, my edges are straight. Then if you want to, this one I did a 1 3/4 inch black base so that I could have a little bit of extra right here. I think this one I'm going to cut a little bit smaller just for a different look. And of course, if you look at the one that I did in my reunion scrapbook, I should have left it open. Where is it in here? Sorry. You think I would know. I've looked at these scrapbooks. Okay, on this one, I just put the piece of white on a black paper. I didn't trim it to make a border. I just put it on the edge of my black paper, and then the black was my background. So if you're using a black scrapbook page, you could do it like that. But I'll show you the other way now of making it as a border. I mean, I guess I can show you right here on this paper. So you have the option of just putting it here on the edge of your paper. And then, you know, that layout is mostly done. You just can put your pictures on. You could even put like a strip of gold or something brown, wood tone, you know, just a thin, maybe 1/8 of an inch strip. But I'm going to put it on a little strip to make a border. So like I say, this one was 1 3/4, but I don't really love that extra thickness. So I think I'm going to do this 1 and however many eighths, 3/8, halfway between the 1 1/2 and 1 3/4. So I don't know what number that is. 1 and, okay, 4/8. So 1 5/8. 4/8 would be 1 1/2. So 1 5/8. I'm just going to cut this little strip off. And then I've already got some adhesive where I stuck the little white strips to make the keys. You know, you can go crazy with adhesive on this side. If you wanted to use some repositionable, you can. I'm just going to go back over where those other adhesives already are. I don't have my repositionable tape runner handy. If you had your repositionable handy, it's super fast to go over these little cutout spaces, but I don't have that. So now this one I'm going to center on here. And voila, there is my little border. So you can decide, this is the one with the 1 5/8 black, and this is the one with the 1 3/4 black. And it has a little bit more of a lip. I don't know. Well, I think both of them have their, you know, have their strengths, depending on what look you're going for. But basically the secret is you punch out the border, you trim off the little rickrack edge to get a clean line. And then you draw this line every 1/2 inch between the pickets. And then you cover up the ones you don't want. And I don't think you can really tell, even look how close that is. I mean, you can tell that I put a little piece of paper in there, but it does not, I mean, it really hides it well. It looks just like it's a little piano keyboard. So we could play a little chopsticks or whatever you want to do. Sorry. I'm still recovering from my trip. Lots of late nights, lots of driving. So there you go. The piano keys border using the Border Maker system with the Picket Fence cartridge. Hopefully this explanation made sense and you'll be able to replicate this quick and easy border for your own scrapbooks. Thank you so much for watching and happy scrapbooking.